Food is more than just what we eat. The ways in which we produce, process, and consume food touches every aspect of life on this planet. It is the foundation of our cultures, our economies, and our relationship with the natural world, and has the power to bring us together as families, communities, and nations.
Families and children are on the brink of famine.
But today's food systems are fragile and unequal. When they fail, there are ripple effects around the world, and the pandemic has impacted the most vulnerable among us. But we know what we need to do to get back on track. We have an opportunity to build back stronger than ever. Transforming our food systems is possible and necessary, and we can set a course to make real change for the benefit of all people. By bringing together key players from around the world and giving voice to citizens in every country. Because a strong food system means
no matter your race, no matter your class, no matter where you live,
women and men have equal opportunities to produce and access nutritious food,
which promotes human health at every step
without degrading land and water resources.
Significa una agricultura familiar.
Provide us, the community, with stability.
All year round, every month, every day of the week.
Even during a pandemic.
We are all connected, and we all have a responsibility to act. We must be bold. We must think and act differently. Transforming our food systems is the most powerful action we can take to solve our biggest problems. Because together,
we can build a just and resilient world.
A just and resilient world
where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind. Join us today.
Hello everyone, I'm Hala Hash Talib, a Syrian refugee living in UAE, and I'll be your moderator today. Now, welcome to today's independent dialogue between the youth in a refugee situation and the Special Envoy for the 2021 Food Systems Summit, Dr. Agnes Kalibata. In September, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres will convene the summit as part of the Decade of Action to highlight the need for sustainable and equitable food systems. The dialogue today is a unique opportunity for the youth in a refugee situation to present their perspective and discuss the challenges and the potential solutions to the problem of food insecurity among people forced to flee. The highlights of this discussion will be shared directly with the Secretary General. I would like to turn the floor now to Ms. Ruben Menegdewala, UNHCR Director in New York, to deliver her welcoming remarks. Over to you, Ms. Menegdewala.
Thank you very much, Hala, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Believe me, you're probably one of the very, very few people who manages to get it right first time. So thank you very much for that. Look, it's really a very great pleasure for me to be here and to welcome all of you, this very, very vibrant young group of refugees that we have around the table, the virtual table today, and also to all of you who are listening or watching this. I am really looking forward to a very dynamic, interactive, and interesting discussion, which I hope will follow this. We all know that refugees live in different settings, in camps, out of camps, in urban areas, but they have one thing in common. They all access food, they all consume food, and they all buy or sell food. So this is something you have in common. The other thing is, of course, that while refugees come from all different parts of the world, like many of you around the table today, and have different life experiences and skills, again, they have one thing in common, and that is they really are motivated to improve their livelihoods and contribute to the economies of the countries in which they live. So again, one thing they have, all of you have in common, and with all of us, by the way, is to access food, and many refugees in many settings actually produce food, and they purchase it or they sell it and they consume it. So this is why the Food System Summit is so hugely important for all of us, not just for refugees, but for all of us sitting around this table today. And the other thing is, of course, that for UNHCR, what is really critical is that this Food System Summit is not just a process, but that it actually helps to improve the lives and opportunities for refugees. So basically for us, we have been working with governments and other partners around the world for many, many years now to try and improve opportunities for the refugees in the domain of food security, whether it's through agricultural programs, access to financial services, or critically for refugees, access to land. We know that this is in fact a very hugely important factor. And we hope again that in this discussion that emerges after this, that these are issues that will be discussed. So for us, this is important. And so for us, really the Food System Summit is a critical vehicle, which we hope will serve as a platform to ensure that this transformation, excuse me, this transformation of the food systems globally, which we hope will be the objective and achievement of this process, will also help to improve opportunities for refugees and to ensure food security and improve nutrition for the refugee communities around the world as well. So not just for other populations, but really for some of the world's most marginalized populations who rarely get spoken of and who need to be included in this. And your voices are going to be critical in moving forward this process, because of course, you have lived through this, you know the importance of what I'm speaking about right now, and you really have that compelling experience and the ability to communicate this. I've seen all of you in different settings, I've heard about all of you, I've seen your profiles, and I know there's a reason why you're all sitting around this table today is because you're such articulate advocates for your own situations and for those of your peers. So I hope that really your participation in this event will really drive this process forward as well. And if there's one person who really exemplifies everything I've just been saying right now, it's of course Dr. Agnes Kalibata. Hala, as you said, she is the Secretary General Special Envoy for this year's Food System Summit. But she was also, though she was born in Rwanda, she grew up in a refugee camp in Uganda. So she has really experienced much of what I'm saying today. And her life story really is an inspiration to all of us, regardless of which background or which profiles we have. And I hope really that we benefit from her experience and her expertise. And I really have this huge honor to introduce her today at this event. Dr. Kalibata, there are two questions to start this conversation ball rolling. There are two questions that I would like to ask you. The first is, if you were to be able to talk to your 10-year-old self today and tell her that you were going to grow up one day to be the Secretary General Special Envoy for the Food System Summit, what do you think her reaction would be? And the second question is, if you have one message to provide to her now from the vantage point of your experience, what would that message be? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your introductory remarks. And I will not make an attempt to say your name because you just want us. So, but really, thank you for those introductory remarks. My story is not extremely different from many other stories of people that I've grown up with or that have grown up in refugee camps. I just happen to be the one that gets a chance to tell it. So really, when you see it, it's really the story of many more people. Now, looking back when I was 10 years old, first of all, we were so sheltered, if I might say, we were so sheltered, but also so isolated from the rest of the world back then, very different from a refugee kid today, because the means of communication that we have today are extremely different from the means of communication we had then. But the circumstances are pretty much the same. The fact that you're living in an environment that denies you a certain number of things, while at the same time really trying very hard to provide for a few things. Now, those few things that they're trying to provide you, basic food, some form of basic education, are very critical to being able to survive that environment. But like you said, really being able to have access to some means of production and being able to give people those opportunities make a difference between the type of life people grow up in and the type of people they become. So I would say, to go back to the question you asked me, I would say, first of all, it's not something I would ever have dreamt about, that I would be in the position I am today or doing the work that I'm doing today, because I had no idea that this type of thing existed. However, I would say, whatever you do, get an education. That is telling any young person in a refugee setting like I was at that age, get an education. And then an education is coming in from your parents that are trying to tell you something, your parents that are trying to say, this is not the life you're supposed to be living. There's a different type of life out there. Listen and try to get that education, but also then get the actual education and work hard at it. Work hard at it because there's a whole world out there. Now kids today, 10-year-old kids today, know so much more than I would have known at my age. But the difference is really going to come from those two places. Get an education and work hard at what you're doing. The world is so huge and you might just be surprised with what the world brings your way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalibata, for sharing with us your inspiring journey. We will now begin the dialogue segment of our event, where both the youth and the special envoy will get to ask and answer questions that are important to them about food insecurity and food system. Dr. Kalibata, you want to share with us more?
Thank you. I thought you wanted me to ask a question. Is that so?
Yes, no. Just now, I just want to remind the attendees first that to just keep their answer as short as possible. And now I would like to invite you, Dr. Kalibata, to ask a question you have for youth in a refugee situation. So please go ahead.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I mean, having grown up in a refugee camp, one of the things I dreaded the most is that we had no choice of the food we ate. We were just given food. So I just wanted to understand what are the key food and nutritional issues you face as young people in refugee camps? Are these challenges different from what you grew up seeing in your own homes, if you had a chance to see that?
This is indeed a good question, Dr. Kalibata. As millions of refugees are hosted in low and middle income countries facing their own economic and development challenges, with hosting communities also facing significant food insecurity. So let's hear from our young leaders. Please keep your answers to less than 1 minute. And I will invite you to write your answers for those of you who won't participate verbally in the chat, so for them to be recorded. Now, is Safia here yet? Okay, so I see your hand is up, Daniela. Please go ahead and share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning with all the participants. My name is Daniela Maria Perez Obando. I am a Colombian refugee living in Ecuador. And there are three main problems associated with the food system that are affecting the lives of refugees and asylum seekers here in Latin America. The first of this one is the lack of economic resources due to the increasement of unemployment as a result of the pandemic. That's why it is recommended to facilitate the inclusion of refugees and asylum seekers in the banking services, such as accessing to bank loans that allow them to create sustainable livelihoods. The second problem is the lack of economic assistance to farmers to cope with the abrupt market changes. It is recommended that insurance policies be open to cover farmers' crop losses, so that they'll be able to respond to an emergency. And the third problem is the lack of land right. And this is a point more focused to the Colombian situation because the land is located in very difficult zones to reach. So they are in hands of narco-traffic organization. It is recommended to facilitate the land access condition to these areas so that the organization and authorities can take control of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela. It's great to hear from young people. Now back to you, Dr. Kalibata. If you have any reflections, and also what other question do you have for the youth? Dr. Kalibata, you are muted.
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
Sorry, Dr. Kalibata, you're muted again.
So sorry about that.
No worries.
So Daniela, I was thanking you for highlighting those areas that are very critical for surviving in a refugee camp. especially when presence in a refugee camp means that we start thinking about, medium to long-term existence in these camps. But I would like to go back to the question I asked earlier. This answers my question. What you just said really answers my question around the key challenges and opportunities that we see. That we see that people can engage in, and the ability for people to engage in this from a refugee camp perspective. But I wanted to go back to the question we talked about earlier, from a food and nutrition perspective. What are you experiencing? What are you seeing? What would you like to see differently? From the ability to access food, what you talked to me is quite important and it's significant when it comes to how we survive in refugee camps, how we create a livelihood and the living in refugee camps. But it all starts with being able to access food in the early days, but also the type of food that you have access to that is defined by the circumstances you're in. Maybe if we could just talk a little bit about that.
So, Farida? Can you hear me, Farida?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, my name is Farida Rwanda. I'm from Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a refugee currently based in Sweden, Stockholm. For me, what I can share is youth face a challenge of inclusion of their voices from the table or platforms where decisions that influence food systems are made, and even limited access to resources, especially capital and skills to invest in their food system initiatives. When you come to opportunities, what youth we have, refugee youth in a refugee youth situation, free land offered in other host countries, e.g. the government of Uganda, availability of market for food products, peaceful coexistence with the host communities, inclusion, when you come to the support, what youth we need, inclusion of their voices, our voices in platforms where decisions that affect their engagements in food system initiatives are made. And even young people also need capacity building trainings on how to leverage on technology, especially digital platforms, to promote their initiatives and to improve skills and knowledge. Supporting young people in a refugee situation to conduct exchange visits with different stakeholders in the same sector for exposure and experiential learning, networking, and partnership building is very important. Thank you.
Yes, excellent, Farida. Thank you so much for your input. Now let's see what Almarat thinks. Over to you, Almarat.
Well, okay. Responding on an addition is like the food system components indeed provide opportunities to refugee youths, but some of the opportunities include job employment and also business opportunities. But unfortunately, refugees are not utilizing these opportunities because of restrictive government policies. Some government policies don't give refugees work permits, so they're unable to find jobs opportunities. And also business activities are restrictive. So those are some of the challenges. The support needed, we need to engage government at least to give refugees work permits so that they can find job opportunities and also engage in business freely.
Thank you so much, Almarat. Now let's switch the roles here. The ball now is in the hand of Tandar. Fill it up with a question and pass it to our special envoy, please.
Thank you, Hala. A very warm greeting, ma'am. My name is Tandar. I'm from Myanmar, but I'm currently living in India. So I would like to hear your opinion and idea about how can we ensure an inclusive approach so that refugees, displaced, and marginalized communities are part of food security system. Thank you, ma'am.
Now over to you, Dr. Kalibata. Please share your answer.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your question, Thana. And that's really at the heart of the matter. How do we ensure that young people growing up in refugee camps are included in food systems? And part of it is been said by Amarata around voice. I think he really made a very important point around voice. And I guess it starts with that, being able to provide the opportunity for people to voice what their needs are, the challenges they are living with, and having a platform, a place where those type of voices are translated into action, right? So it's one thing to have a voice, it's another thing for those type of voices to be translated into action. And then access to productive resources. So being a refugee does not mean that we don't have self-determination, that we can't actually determine what happens to our lives, the ability to send our children to school, the ability to feed our kids the way we should feed them, the ability to really do a few things that everybody should be able to do who is able. Now, that sometimes doesn't happen because of what was being said in the restrictions that prevent access for refugees, but in terms of employment, but also the restriction that prevent access in terms of land, and the restriction that prevent access in terms of capital. And those are quite common. There are very few situations actually that are able to provide for those things. Most of situations encourage those restrictions. So it's really important that those things be addressed. For people to be able to be productively involved, those things have to be addressed. And no refugee, I don't know any single refugee that wants to stay in a country where they are refugees. No refugee, these are not permanent situations. These are situations that are there to help people survive a period. And we should be able as a community to be able to provide for that environment so that people can have a living while stability is returning in their countries. So I really think that there's a place for all of us to work hard to ensure that those productive resources are made available for the time that people need them.
This is a very interesting point you mentioned, Dr. Kalibata. Now the ball is in your hand again, Dr. Kalibata. What other question would you like to ask our young leaders to address?
I would like to know how the Food System Summit, how they would like to engage in the Food System Summit, and what issues do they see as important to raise with the Food System Summit? You know, we are in the midst of a summit. So how would you like to engage, and what type of issues would you be bringing on the table as you engage?
Kalinga, do we have you here?
I'm right here.
Your voice is cutting a bit.
Clearly.
It's kind of robotic. Your voice is robotic.
I think it's the problem of the net that's good.
Maybe you can put your answer in the chat so that it's recorded, please. And now we move to the other speaker. Thank you so much, Kalinga.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Now, Muhammad, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here, Hala. Thank you.
What are your thoughts? Please remember to keep the answer to less than 1 minute.
Okay, sure. My name is Muhammad Ismail Khalkar. I'm a refugee from Afghanistan, currently residing in India, and I'm a DOFI alumni scholar. And my answer for this question is the major issues which are making the food system lagging, especially in developing countries such as some part of Asia and African countries, is the insufficient production and distribution of food. And also, how will the food distributed among the people, and who has the power of distribution of the food? And also, moreover, the lack of formal education on the malnutrition, dietary intakes, and also climate change is also a risky thing for food system. By this food summit system, by engaging and promoting of sustainable and innovative food production and efficient way of distributing food across the country, especially the world, will help the developing countries. This thing we can do, like promote these things like how the farmers and how the market should be open for the farmers to take their products there and sell it and distribute it. And thank you.
Yes. Excellent point, Mohammed. Indeed, access to quality food is being compromised because of this inequality in distribution. Actually, through my visit to Aleppo in Syria back in March, I got to know that there are meat shops that started to sell the usually inedible parts of chicken, such as like the necks for people who can't afford having any kind of meat in their diet anymore. Most of the people there now are having their main protein to be around 1 or half a chicken a month if they are lucky. So it is very interesting to know why this inequality is happening in food distribution. Now, passing it back to Dr. Kalibata, what other question do you have for the youth? Dr. Kalibata, sorry, you are muted.
I was saying that I know that young people are very much interested in technologies, and I would like to know if they see that there are technologies that could be relevant to refugee situations in terms of how we access food and nutrition in this refugee environment. Are there things you've seen that you're finding interesting that we can deploy and use to facilitate access better?
Oscar? I see your hand is up. Please go ahead. Oscar, can you hear us? You are muted.
Yeah, good morning. Hello, how are you? Could you please repeat me your question, please?
The special envoy was asking about technologies that you think could be relevant to your situation from a food and nutritional perspective.
Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone. My name is Oscar Garcia, and I'm a refugee from Colombia, and I'm still living in Ecuador. So according to your question is, I'm going to talk about Latin America. Latin America represents 60% of the total world food exports, whether in the production of the coffee in Brazil and Colombia, beef in Argentina, Uruguay, or bananas. Also in Ecuador, the region can be the critical for production boosting of its sport. I speak of some important fundamental aspects so that the countries of Latin America and Caribbean can seize the opportunity and lead the future of food systems. For example, investing in human capital, the training of agricultural workers is a central aspect for the future, focusing of learning digital technologies because by economy, risk management, or administration. Another is innovation. Developing new solutions can help farmers overcome the adverse effects of extreme weather conditions and cope with the world's increased demand of food. Other aspect is state presence. It's guarantee the state presence in all parts of Latin America, or also technology. Scientists and technological investment is essential to develop the essential tools for the challenge of the future. Also, we can talk about the entrepreneurship or the take care of our environment. Thank you.
Excellent, Oscar. Thank you so much. Now, over to you, Charlotte. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Charlotte Kwame, and I'm speaking from Kenya. I'm from Ivory Coast. So adding to the point of what Oscar just said, I would like to say that in refugee settings, most especially, agriculture is done in a traditional way and which demand a lot of effort with little production. So the introduction of machineries will be very, very important in a refugee setting. And there is a very new technique that I would like to also advocate for. This is aquaponic. This is a technique that doesn't really need a soil for you to be able to cultivate, but with a little means, you'll be able to bring up crops and be able to produce a lot of quality food. So I would love to ask to talk about post-harvest. This is when we have produced, how to be able to keep it for a long period, because after the production, people are not able to keep it and secure the food for a long period of time. So I will talk about microwave vacuum. This is another strategy that I have discovered that is going to be very useful for to be able to dry up the food and keep it for a long period of time in the refugee setting. So thank you. This is my contribution to what Oscar just said.
Great point, Charlotte, and it seems like a really interesting invention. Now, Blanche, would you like to ask a question to the Special Envoy? Is Blanche here? Hello, Blanche.
Hi.
Hello, please go ahead and ask your question to the Special Envoy.
I'm Blanche Kabangu, living in Zambia. My question goes like, how are you going to empower youth to improve on food security? Well, there are some factors that are affecting agriculture, such as climate change, weather condition, then the type of soil, especially, for example, I can say that one in my Kwayukwa, it can't allow people to cultivate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blanche. Now let's hear from our Special Envoy.
Thank you so much, Blanche. Thank you for your question. I just want to underscore that there are so many ways to secure food for people, which is not necessarily through production, but production is a very critical part of securing food, especially as you had heard from the others before you. If the productive capacity is available, people have access to land, people have access to the other means of production, and a little bit, excuse me, a little bit of capital and markets. So in that perspective, we should be able to empower youth to have the knowledge that they need to be able to engage in this form of agriculture where the ability exists. But I want to emphasize that youth can do so much more than engage in primary production of food. They can do lots of jobs. And one part that where we are going to put emphasis in this summit is the part of ensuring jobs and ensuring, first of all, two things: ensuring that if you're working in the food system, you should ideally be able to have a living income. Number one. Number two, that the food system should be able to create jobs across the board, take advantage. We didn't create climate change, but climate change is creating new types of job opportunities, and the food system is looking at what type of jobs get created because of that. So ensuring that people are employed is extremely important to accessing food. Ensuring that young people are employed is extremely important to accessing food, but also ensuring that food is affordable. So you could be employed, but not afford the food that you want. Ensuring that food is affordable because production is happening sufficiently to be able to support affordability of food is also going to be very important. So I want to assure you that the Food System Summit is looking at the critical elements of access to food, the critical elements of access to nutrition, and more importantly, the critical elements of access to employment within the food value chains. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalibata. Now let's turn the table again. Over to you, Dr. Kalibata again. What another question do you have for our youth today?
Okay, so my question is this: what needs to be improved or transformed in your local food environment to increase the availability and access to healthy food for your family?
Thank you, Dr. Kalibata. Ella Grace, I see your hand is up. Ella? Is Ella Grace with us? Okay, so
Yes. How are you? Are you getting
hello.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. My name is Ella Grace, and my country of origin is Burundi. Currently, I'm residing in Malawi in the camp of Saleka refugee camp, and I'm a youth advocate. And the question that to answer, the situation right here in camp is critically very bad because we don't have access to the land so that maybe we can do the cultivation and the likes. So it's very not easy for us, those youths that are staying in the camp of Zalega, to have a good production and how we can process the food for the health of the community. And looking at the type of the climate we are also having right here in Malawi is somehow critical. We sometimes have enough enough rain for the production, but you find like for the other years you don't have enough rain. So it's really a problem for this country, as well as the people who live in it, more especially affecting also refugees, since we don't have the space to have a place where we can do the cultivation, because we're not allowed like to have that access to the land. Yes, that's what I can say.
Thank you so much, Ella. Now, Chantal, what are your thoughts?
Chantal, are you hearing me?
Yes.
I'm presenting Chantal from Ruchinga. She has not managed to come. Okay. But for me, I'm called Mkunda John, Ruchinga settlement in Uganda, country of origin Namirwandi. On that issue, we have come up to have a suggestion of like this, whereby livelihood partners should sensitize the community, mostly youth, on how to create small gardens. Because in Ruchinga, like and maybe another settlements, they have small gardens, whereby when they have home gardens, where to plant like tomatoes, where to plant like cabbages, which can increase on food ratio. It can work rather than stay.
I see there is a connection issue with you. But thank you so much. Maybe you can write the full answer in the chat. And now over to you, Dr. Kalibata. What final question do you have for our youth that are currently in a refugee situation?
Yeah, so thank you again, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to these young people living in refugee situations, something that is so familiar for me. So I have one last question. How can food security and resilience be best supported in refugee situations in the long term? If sometimes people live there for for many years like I did, is there a role for young people like yourselves? What support would youth need in order to be able to play this role when it comes to living in refugee situations for a long time?
Thank you so much. Amazing question, Dr. Kalibata. As over 10 million refugees rely on a humanitarian assistance to meet their need for food and other basic forms of assistance, which is very short term. So it's good to know what else we can do for a long-term solution. What are your thoughts, Vistam? Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can my voice be heard clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so looking at food security in refugee situations. So now, how can we do it? So we need to look at irrigation in terms of lands where we have no access to water, and looking at some lands are not that fertile, so we need some fertilizers. And also for people living in urban areas where they cannot farm, some entrepreneurship training, because at times jobs are not available to refugees. Yes, then the role that can be played by young youths, like becoming advocates in such discussions, and how the support is being given these such platforms so that we're able to participate, airing out our voices in this situation.
Yes, thank you so much, Weston. Now, Bahati Ernestine, let's hear from you.
Thanks, Hala. Hi, everyone. My name is Bahati Ernestine. I'm originally from Rwanda, but currently living in Kenya. So thanks, Fiston. Just what I would add on what you've said is that I think the biggest problem I see in refugee setups is limited water and as well as limited land, or if there is land, there's poor soil. So I think the best way that this can be approached is by creative ways of farming that uses minimal land, such as vertical farming, container farming that I've seen in Nairobi here. They recycle like plastic bottles and tires and just create small gardens there. I think this is something that people can be taught and they can do, and it can be sustainable. And then another thing is improving or actually having creative ways of farming, such as hydroponics, that uses less water or less soil actually. And this, you can grow things like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers in such. And also while I was in uni, I remember I did a research on something called duckweed, which is a plant that basically grows in water, and it doesn't need to be clean water. It can be pond water, and it can be food for humans and for animals. It's very high in proteins, and something cool about duckweed is that it can also purify water. So if we have places where water is a problem and they need to recycle, for example, water that is used to irrigate farms or water that is used for animals, this is a good way that can help purify water and help with water scarcity. And then in terms of support for the youth, I think what would be really great is for opportunities to innovate, or just to think and learn about creative ways of implementing farming, and also moving the youth from thinking that farming is something that's not cool, it's something that old people do. Just get into the new ways of farming that incorporates technology and apps, and a super fun way that youth can be involved. Another example of something that I've done, I have a YouTube channel, and recently I shared how to make avocado oil from avocados that are rotten. I think this is a way that people can get things that they can use to cook, and also something that can be used as a means of gaining a livelihood. So if youth get opportunities to learn about these things and also share information, I think it would be really, really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bahati. These are some really interesting ideas. Now, I see Safia's hand is up. Welcome back, Safia.
Yeah, hello everyone. Sorry, I had internet issues, so that's why I joined late, and my apology for joining late. So just a brief introduction. My name is Safia Ibrahim Khil. I am a foreign refugee living in Pakistan. And I'm super happy, and it's wonderful to meet you, the Food Envoy, virtually. And thank you so much for having the time to listen from young people, young refugees, and to put their experiences forward and implement those experiences in the local levels and also in the global levels. I don't have any question, just a recommendation that as she is the biggest refugee voice in a system. So being a refugee voice, she can use her voice to call on international community to find out the grassroots reasons for the displacement, for the conflict, the unrest and violence in the community. Because food is a piece of, I should say it's an essential thing that we cannot avoid it in any circumstances. If it is displacement, if it is war, violence, in any situation, people needs food. I think without food, we cannot survive. So, but all the basic things goes to violence. So if it is domestic violence, if it is international, if it is a global crisis, I think people normally suffer from this. And so being youth representative, I just want to recommend this, that she can use her voice to call on international community to find the reasons, to find the grassroots causes of this violence and unrest in the community. And also because when violence is happening and people are displacing from one place to another place, that automatically increase the ratio of population in one country, which face economic crisis and that already increased the other issues in the community, like unemployment, violence. People are being suffering from the education. So all these things are, I think, actually interconnected with the situation that we are actually suffering right now. So this is my recommendation, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Safia, for these great recommendations. Now, I saw Inipio hand was up. Do you want to share with us your thoughts? Inipio? Okay. Inipio, you can also write your answer in the chat. So let's move to Barth Mwanza. Did you have a final question for the Special Envoy?
Yes, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Yeah, it's really a pleasure for me to join this call. My name is Barthelemy Mwanzangani, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We are currently living in Zimbabwe. So I would like to ask the Special Envoy, like, what are your hopes for the United Nations Food System Summit? And how do you think like refugees could contribute to the summit conversation? So these are my two final questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bart, for this amazing question. Now moving to you, Dr. Kalibata. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Bethreme. How do you pronounce your name, Bethreme?
Bart. You can say Bart.
But yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for the question. My hopes for the Food System Summit is not very different from what the Secretary General requested that we do with this summit, is that we find new ways of delivering on the SDGs. We are behind on a number of SDGs. We are behind on hunger. We are behind on nutrition. We are behind on a number of indicators. And then we have people that, because of all sorts of underlying issues around poverty, which is SDG number 1, around conflict, end up in situations like you're in. So I hope that really by coming through on SDGs, and the food system touches all 17 SDGs, that we can actually come through for people, for basic human rights, including access to one's own home, access to one's own ability to be productive. So that is really my biggest hope. The second, of course, is recognizing that we are working now against an environment that really needs us to be a little bit more intentional, live within our planetary boundaries, that we all have a sense of what that means as people individually, that we understand what that means, and we can do the right things by the environment. So the second part of your question, coming into this Food System Summit, there's an opportunity for young people like yourselves and for refugees in general to share what you're learning. I mean, you just shared an amazing amount of information here and knowledge here that is coming from your individual experiences that can be extremely important to contributing to how we can improve lives under refugee circumstances. But more importantly, this summit is also about you. It's about every voice out there. It's an opportunity for you to put your voice forward, say what you'd like to see changed around our environment, to improve your life where you're living, but also to take your life back to normal. So it's an opportunity to put these voices forward. Just because you're a refugee does not mean that you live under subhuman conditions. You should have access to food. You should have access to nutritious food. You should have access to water. You should have access to the basic minimums that are secured in our human rights laws, but also secured in SDGs. So there's an opportunity for you all to really put your voice forward and be able to say what you would like to see the world come through, using the Food System Summit as your platform to project your voice and take it out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalibata, Special Envoy. And thank you to all of you young people who participated today, including those of you who shared your thoughts and perspectives in this chat. This has been a wonderful conversation that I am confident will provide valuable insights regarding the needs of refugees and others forced to flee. I know this won't be the last time that we engage. I hope we can carry on our conversation in the future. Now I will give the last words to Dr. Kalibata to end this insightful dialogue. Over to you, Dr. Kalibata.
So thank you, Hala, for giving me the opportunity to be with you all, to be able to talk to young people living in refugee situations. It's a process, but it will end. Believe you me, it will end. And the one opportunity to have it end sooner than later is to use platforms like the Food Systems Summit is offering to really be able to project your hopes and needs, and be able to make sure that your voices are being heard as well. So I encourage you to engage with the Food Systems Summit. Is designed as a people's summit. So don't feel shy to project your voices out there. Don't feel denied of space, because that's what this is about. And it's also an opportunity to look at solutions. So we are eagerly waiting to hear what your views are on how we can improve your lives, but also contribute to improving lives of other people that are in similar situations as yourself. So please just engage in the Food Systems Summit in any way, through the dialogues that are happening, through the online platform that is available to you all. Just go to our website and find ways of engaging. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalibata. Now, I just want to say before everyone signing out, please, everyone turn your camera on so that we take a picture for the Facebook Live. Of course, for those of you who can open the camera, so please try and open it. Okay, wave everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. And that was a very insightful event. Now you are free to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc.
Great job.
Thank you so much.